motion control shoes, stability control shoes, overpronation correction. The running industry has spent years developing technology trying to control how your foot moves. But here's the question I don't hear anybody else asking. Do both of your feet need the same amount of control? Hi, I'm Dr. Lynn Varant. I'm here today to talk to you about motion control shoes, when you would need them, and how would they work, to answer your questions about is this the right shoe for you. So first, what are these type of shoes trying to fix? The phrase is called overpronation. What that means is that your foot is rolling excessively inward after your foot hits the ground. This can lead to knee pain, shin splints, and other different types of injuries that can affect your running. So traditional thinking is identify overpronation and then put on a stability shoe. Simple, right? But here's what I see in my practice. Most people don't pronate or overpronate equally on both feet. You might have a weak hip on your left side and an old ankle sprain injury on the right side, or just natural asymmetry. And yet we're putting the same exact shoe, a motion control shoe, on both feet. So there's a few different approaches these shoe industries have taken to try to control how your foot moves. So let's talk about these different approaches and the different kind of shoes that go with them. The first one is your more traditional resistance approach. For example, your Brooks Adrenaline, specifically with the GTS. What that means is go to support. So they have guide rails on the side of the shoe that help control the heel movement. This is your much more traditional approach. This shoe could resist overpronation. The next is geometric guidance. What that means is the way that the bottom of the shoe is designed is going to help you control that pronation. Some examples of this are the Saucony Guide. This shoe has a wide platform that's really similar to the Saucony Ride, and yet what is different is the sides of the shoe come up a little higher to provide similar to a guide rail, like your shoe is along a track that controls both sides, the insides and the outside of your foot. It doesn't fight pronation, it tends to guide your foot down a centered path. I actually like the feel of the shoe. And it had a little bit of cushion. The difference with the Adrenaline, actually, I found is that it felt really stiff underneath my foot, which I tend to like because it allowed me to feel the ground underneath. But I actually also enjoyed the Saucony Guide. There was a lot more cushion underneath that shoe, not really the guide rails, but just the higher cushion stack. And I liked the feel of the landing. It felt nice and quiet, but also supportive. The other shoe that I found was quite similar to the Saucony Guide was the ASICS GT2000. Similar, that had a pretty wide base at the bottom of the shoe. The foam is what controls the flow of your foot, but not overly aggressive. The last shoe that was similar to the Guide and ASICS is New Balance 860. Now this I felt overly aggressive, but it was for me, right? And so what I found is as I was walking and running in the shoe, I found my right foot kind of turning out to the side, and probably because it had a stiffer plate along the inside of the shoe that runs along the back of the shoe to the left outside, that really started to not allow my foot to come down, and almost felt like it was not just pushing me out, but turning my foot outward. But some people might need that support, but that's interesting to note how all these different shoes, even though they use the same approach, do so in a different way and have a little bit different feel in the aggressiveness of the control. Other ways that shoes try to control your foot is through the density of the foam. For example, the Hoka Arahi. This has a firmer foam on the inside of the shoe so that the more you pronate into that foam, it tends to push you outward a little bit. So again, it's just a matter of feel whether you like it. It tends to adapt to the amount of pronation that you have on the shoe. The other shoe that has more of a control through the foam is the Cloudrunner. Pretty popular shoe. It tends to have the pods a little denser on the inside of the shoe. But many people, even I found that this was less aggressive, and I didn't feel as much of forcing of my motion, and actually felt comfortable walking in the shoe and even a little bit of a light jogging. This probably tends to have the lightest amount of motion control in the shoe of all of the shoes that we're reviewing today. This one shoe has more of a hybrid approach in the fact that it's using the foam and some guide rails, and that's the Nike structure. It's exactly the way it's described. It feels very structured in the shoe. It feels like it's very controlled. I actually felt like my foot was being pushed out a little bit, similar to what I felt with the New Balance shoe. Again, not the shoe that I would prefer, but it was interesting to feel how it felt both when I was running and walking in the shoe. So the last two shoes I wanted to talk about are more of your zero or low drop shoe. One is the Ultra Experience Forward. It's a 4mm drop, but what it uses is a small guide rail on the inside of the shoe, and also is known for its wider toe box. So for those of you that want to splay your feet out, a great fit. Less of a control shoe, but still giving you that support if you need that for overpronation. And then finally, the Topo Ultrafly. Wider toe box. It does have a traditional post, so not really just using the foam, but you could see it and feel that control at the inside of your arch to minimize that overpronation. 5mm drop, so again, a lower drop shoe for those of you that don't want a really high stack shoe. So here's my take after years of working with runners. Most runners don't need motion control or the same amount of motion control in both feet. So here's what you can do instead. Start with a neutral shoe that fits your shape and your preferences for stack and drop height. Use an insole that's targeted for your foot and your needs. This lets you address asymmetries, such as having maybe a different type of insole in each shoe. Then as your strength and mechanics improve, you can adjust the insoles and still use the same shoe. So why would having a neutral shoe and using a specific insole, a different one in each shoe, work better? Well, 1, customization, 2, adaptability, 3, cost effectiveness, and 4, addressing asymmetry. But motion control shoes still have their place. 1, if you need bilateral motion control support in both feet, if you're building up strength for increased running or walking, or if the shoes fit is perfectly for you. So here's your takeaway. Motion control shoes have great technology that can help many runners that need this kind of support. Consider whether you need the same amount of support in both feet. A neutral shoe plus an insole can add the adaptability that you might need specifically for you. And whatever you choose, give your body time to adapt. Drop in a comment. Are you using a motion control shoe? And if so, which one? Are you using a neutral shoe and insoles? I'd love to hear about that. And finally, if you're feeling overwhelmed, I totally get it. I was too, and I don't even use a stability or motion control shoe. So if you have questions about what you need, let's jump on a free 20-minute assessment call to find out if you're running in the right shoe for you, so we can keep you running better and stronger for life.